Hi everybody, this is Bonnie Barker with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I have a special guest. I want you to meet my friend Emily, and she is with LambShopKits.com, and she's the one who provided this amazing yarn for the glazed pecan cabled lap blanket, and she's showing it there. Yay, she has it. And also the Tulip Blanket that we recently released on our channel. And I just wanted you to meet her. This is really the first time we've even talked to each other face to face like this, and really look forward to the post-COVID days when we can maybe even do a conference together or fiber festival. I mean, you name it. I don't care. I'm going to get on that plane and go just so I can go somewhere after 2 years being cooped up here. So, well, Emily, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Oh, it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me today, Bonnie. I so enjoy working with you and the designs that we've created together. They've been just so much fun. I work with designers like you, knitting designers, crocheting designers to bring together kits. I remember when I first got started, there wasn't a lot of crochet kits out there. And most of the kits you would see, they would mostly just be yarn and needle, or sorry, yarn and pattern. But, that's why I wanted something more thorough. And that's why I put in all the things you would need for the project, and also the YouTube tutorials, just everything that you need to make these projects so that people can just feel more confident to get them out of that beginner to the, the next level, like you say, push them out to the next level, intermediate, advanced, and make more and more things.
And to experience, I think, something outside of the big box store. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the yarn at the big box stores. I've gone through probably tens of thousands of miles of acrylic myself, and I'm not knocking it at all, but there is something about getting into the natural fiber worlds. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. But
yeah.
I want you to tell us a little bit. This is about you. I want you to tell us, when did you first become interested or begin crocheting or knitting? And what do you prefer to do?
I think crochet will always be my first love, which is why I do crochet kits when most people don't. I prefer crochet all the live long day. I think I can do way more with crochet, and you can, I don't know, it's just so, it comes more naturally. I have to think more with knitting. I think that you might understand that.
Well, I have to think more with knitting, but that's because I've only been knitting like maybe 3 years and crocheting for 50. So there's an offset there.
I've been crocheting since I was 5, but I didn't really get into it heavily until I was, I don't know, maybe 20. But I had always done it. My mom is a heavy crafter, and she would always enter things into the fair and things like that. And I've crafted my whole life, different things, latch hooking and cross stitch and rug hooking or rug punching, and crochet. I tried to knit when I was young, but it didn't come. I only learned 3 years ago, like you.
Wow.
When I was pregnant with my daughter, with my middle child, I resolved to learn. But crocheting has always been something that I've done, and I'm really good at it.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that. I would have thought that you were a knitter, so I'm learning something more about you. Okay, great.
But because I had crochet for so long, working with your hands, it came very easy. I still have to think about it more. The projects that I take on, I still have to kind of think about. But when you've worked with your hands for so long, it really isn't that hard to kind of just, I don't know, go another direction.
Yeah.
I did try spinning though, and even though I could do it, it wasn't for me. You really are doing 4 different things at once with that, so that wasn't for me.
And that just means when you're spinning, and I think it's beautiful that people do that.
Yeah, I liked it, but
people have asked me that, oh, are you going to get into dyeing and spinning? And I'm like, well, that means I have to put my hooks down. And I feel like I'm pursuing, the gifting. And I think that's like what you're doing too, just what you enjoy. There's really I'm preaching here now. There's not time enough in the world to
I
do it
know.
all.
You
But,
can't do everything. People ask me all the time because I
yeah.
have acreage here. I have 10 acres. And they say, well, why don't you have the sheep? Why don't you shear why don't you, dye the yarn? Why don't you do, and it's like, I can't do everything.
No,
I
it's an
mean,
industry. It takes an
yeah,
industry to
there's
do
like
all of that.
20 different major skills from start to
Yeah.
finish that I just don't, I mean, you kind of have to pick. And it was hard for me to
Mhm.
choose between crocheting and reading. That was a big thing that I would have to choose. So now I listen to audiobooks when audiobooks became kind of more popular,
Yeah.
or, books on CD.
Well,
That
plus
was
you have these three beautiful children to care for.
new. I have three really small little babies. Well, my oldest just turned 7, but they're so busy, you know, outside in our yard in their imaginative play that, I kind of just keep a ball of yarn in my pocket, and then I walk around and kind of stitch and keep my eye on them and play with them, and, oh, watch me, mom, and okay, and I'm watching them. And so I kind of just stitch as I'm moving around. People say, well, how do you have time for that? And I'm like, well, I kind of just do it
Mhm.
as I'm walking around with the kids because we have such a big yard.
That's great.
I mean,
We were just at
yeah.
church yesterday. Since the pandemic, our church is a meeting on a member's farm up on a hill, and it's really delightful. Although when it's very cold and windy and 40 degrees out, it's frigid. But so far we've had good weather. But because where we have been meeting and rented space has been closed to us, so anyway, but I think of you because yesterday we were out there and we had to be careful to avoid the electrified fence where the cattle are. They moved the cattle, so be careful. Don't get too close,
Don't
kids.
touch
You know. And then
that.
there's the sheep over in this field, and then there's the chickens over on one side, and it's just really cool to see all this. And then the beautiful hills in the distance. So yeah, I
Yeah,
imagine.
that's kind of where I live. I'm
Yeah.
surrounded by farms. So it's really fun because I do a lot of gardening. So I'll trade my raspberries for my neighbor's duck eggs,
Oh,
or I'll trade my lettuces for my neighbor's goat milk. We all kind of trade that way.
You're,
So
you're talking a foreign language to me,
I
but
know,
I
I
think
know
that's amazing.
people were really, short on supplies during the pandemic, but we were really fine. I mean, everyone kind of does their own thing, and we
Yeah.
would trade. Like my friends do beef cows, so I had a full cow in my freezer. So we just were eating, I don't know. I mean, people were worried about toilet paper, and we were just like, well, we'll just
Crochet some yarn.
yeah, I'll make a little shawl for the neighbors, and then they'll I mean, that's kind of, I mean, we just kind of trade around. Someone made a batch of jam, and so they'll, you know, I don't know. We just kind of trade that way,
Yeah.
and it's really really fun because we all do something different.
Hmm.
There's like 5 of us in this little circle that we have here, and but yeah.
Wow.
Anyways,
Well,
um,
that kind of leads me into the next question. Then, what most inspires you, either personally or otherwise? In creating your kits, your designs.
yeah, that's a great question. I spend a lot of time outdoors. I don't like to be indoors very often. Um, and so just having the room to kind of roam here, you go on these walks, and then you get these ideas, and then you see, or well, I would see, like a log, and then I would put a crochet hook on top of the log, and like, because the brown was so vibrant on the log, it really made the blue pop.
Mm.
Just walking around would give me these ideas. I would see this color from a flower, and then that would give me an idea for the pink
Hmm.
for the blanket. I mean, when you have room to kind of move around at your leisure, you can kind of just let your imagination kind of wander around. And that might be for yarn colors, that might be for painting, or, however you express yourself creatively.
Hmm.
If you just get outside, even if it's in the city, really, you can get some really a beautiful inspiration from, the brick walls, or anything that you might see can give you an idea. And so I spend a lot of time outdoors, and the Pacific Northwest is kind of famous for its beauty and the waterfalls and the mountains and the hiking. I mean, it's just indescribable. So, I mean, but my yard, I know that's really, but it's a 10-acre property. So there's really, like, we have our own trails that we can kind of go on. And it's just so, I don't know, it's really a beautiful place.
That sounds
So,
sounds like I need to visit your
yeah. I tried to send you photos, but I mean, it doesn't really
yeah.
show. You kind of have to, when you have a mountain just kind of looking at you day in and day out, it really is just like, it warms your soul. It's just like when you're surrounded by mountains, I don't know. I really love being in mountainous regions or areas where you're just, but I was actually outside in my yard clearing a huge portion of it. There was a really large area of blackberry bushes, and I was outside and I was covered in like sweat and, blood from being pricked from the thorns, from, because I was I was a mess. And my mind was just wandering around, and my husband came out and he said, "So what are you doing? How you doing? Everything, checking in." And I was just like, "Well, I think I want to make kits." And he's just like, "Okay."
So that was the next question. When did you get interested in making yarn kits? But obviously, I just have to tell people too that you do have a gift for putting colors together, and while you may make it look easy, it's not. And it's I've only known a few people. One other lady that I can think of who owns this yarn store near me called Mittens locally, and there's another one called So Original, and both of those ladies are very gifted in putting colors together that you would not have even, I would never have picked them in a million years. But I mean, that is a gift, and I just want to tell people that you're very good at that. If you want to just take a look at the Tulip stitch blanket, for example, just those colors. I won't get into all that story, but I'll let you tell it. But tell us, besides your story, unless you just told us now, how you got interested in doing kits.
Well, I craft heavily, and people would see, I started making things for my kids when my kids came along, and then people would see them, as I was out and about. They would say, "Oh, what a nice sweater, and what a nice hat, and how did you do that, and what yarn did you use?" And so I started, people would ask me these things, and so I would carry extra things with me. For example, like I would buy 15 skeins of yarn just to have in my car in case someone asked me, and I would give them a skein of yarn. "This is what I used. Make one, please," and I just wanted to share. And I would carry patterns. I would buy extra patterns and buy extra stuff just to give away. And I was giving away, I would sit down with people to kind of crochet along with them, because they would tell me, "Well, I can't do that. It's too hard." And I would say, "No, I can help you. I will show you." But eventually my heart would be really sad, because I don't know if anyone ever really made anything. So my husband, he kind of said something pretty wise. He's lovely that way. He said, "You need to put value behind what you're doing." And I remember, like, well, okay, that sounds great, but how do I do that? And then, it kind of stewed in there for, I don't know, 6 months or a year or whatever. And then I said, well, maybe I'll just make it so people, put the kit together. And that way, if someone wanted to make something, I could say, "Okay, here you go. Here it all is for you."
Wow.
And a video, possibly, so that you can make it. And so, even though I'm not a designer and I don't, do these things, it would be kind of my way of helping other people make things.
Yeah. I
Because
think I'm sorry, everybody that I've heard from who've bought kits from you have been delighted
thank you.
with what they've gotten. So I think you're on the right track here. I mean, it is an investment for sure, but you're talking quality material here. Yeah.
I really, in my life, I've spent a bit of a journey going through, what to spend my money on. I remember wanting to buy the nicer things, but then, spending all that money, and then it would just kind of break, in 2 seconds. And then I would just remember thinking, well,
This is
I'll
non-yarn
spend,
things, right? You're talking
yeah,
non.
well, I mean, just on things, yeah, like,
Things.
just on things in general. And then
Yeah.
I would buy the acrylic stuff, but then it would kind of, I don't know, it wouldn't wear very well or whatever. And so I started investing more in things that would last a little longer, in wools and things like that. Plus, I also spend a lot of time trying to, you know, trying to keep things organically grown in my family. We do a lot of natural things.
Mhm.
We grow a lot of our own food, and like I say, we eat from local farms and things like that. And so natural fibers was just kind of a linear move. So we try really hard to keep things wool and alpaca and silk. And I know that that is more expensive, but at the same time, like, do you need 20 sweaters, or maybe just 2 or 3 that are more higher quality? I mean, I guess that's
Right.
opinion based, but
Yeah,
yeah, I try to keep things higher quality so that they can last a little longer. Um, you know, Also thinking about the environment, I try to think about the environment. Acrylics are a little harder on
mhm.
the environment than, but anyways, that's kind of a whole nother subject.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just had a thought too. I'm recalling using the 8 hanks of yarn in the
Yeah.
more recent, and I'm thinking back to the other 8 hanks I used in the glazed pecan. And I one thing that I notice when I work with yarn is it full of knots? And I don't recall. I mean, I don't want to say you're never going to find a knot in this yarn, because there are times when even the best yarns are going to have, you're going to have a knot here and there. But I don't recall more than maybe one. I
Yeah.
mean, 2 max, if that. But going through 8 scans of yarn, I mean, I
Yeah.
have been through, I mean, if I can get through, I'm not even going to mention any brand names, because I don't want
Any
anybody
brand.
to get mad at me. But let's just say popular yarns available at your local big box stores. I mean, it's rare that I'll get through even one without a couple knots, 2 or 3, and even worse is if you're buying variegated yarn and then they tie the knot right dead center of the color change, like on those cakes, with all the different colors. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you just disrupted my project.
Yeah. And then it's like this, you're going along nicely and it's changing beautifully, and then
Yeah.
it's like white.
Yeah. Or it just has this bulge of, for lack of a bit, well, I'm not going to say the word I was thinking, but it has to do with, um, well, never mind. You know what I mean? Just the big clump of unidentifiable ick,
Yeah.
and then it goes back to normal. And I'm like, unless you buy a specialty yarn and you expect the big clump of ick, I'm like, now I've got to cut my yarn. And,
Yeah.
you God help me if I'm knitting a project and right in the middle have to back out stitches so that the knots are on the end. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want
I
to,
think that,
yeah.
oh, I think that it kind of all ties together how I view things. When I could, because we shop at like a local co-op, and those farmers are all local, and they might charge an extra 25 cents for their lettuces, but I try to support local. We have a lot of local fiber artists around here too, and they
Oh,
might charge a touch more for their yarn, but they made it with their own, like with their hands. It wasn't made by a machine. You know
right.
what I mean? Like, it was
Yeah.
dyed by hand, spun by hand. You know, it's like an art. It's an art skein of art. And it's, I don't know, it's just but at the same time, it's not that much more expensive now, right? Because acrylics go up with the cost of
Right.
oil. I mean, like, it's, so anyways, I don't know.
I've been holding on to one of these, that I have some of
I
this
know.
yarn
I
that
recognize that.
Yeah, I know you do. It's sitting here waiting for some attention from me. I'm not going to mention what it is in case it doesn't happen
Oh, it's a
anytime soon.
secret. You can't.
But I mean, the colors in this are just spectacular.
I
And
love
this
that
is
about you.
enticing me to take it out again, just looking at it. But where was I going with this? I forgot. Okay.
Look at
Train.
this one. Look at this one.
Oh, wow. Is that like greens and browns?
Yeah, greens,
Uh,
browns, and oranges.
don't
I
tell me.
wanted to know if you wanted to do a fall project together, something more themey. Because this yarn, I've been looking at it and I'm like, what should I do with this? It's so great and
We'll have
themey.
to talk off camera about that.
Off camera.
We'll just tease everybody with it right now.
I know. Well, we could brainstorm and the comments could be ideas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can do that. Well, let me ask you some more questions here. Do you have a favorite design that maybe you have, it doesn't necessarily have to be yours, but one that you have crocheted or knit and maybe given as a gift to somebody? Or just something, your favorite thing you've ever made in the fiber arts?
Oh man, I've made so many things. I
Okay.
wish that I could have gotten out one of my pieces that I've done. I
Well,
think
that's
that would
okay.
be
Can you remember maybe something? You can always send me a picture and I can put a picture of it when I edit this
amazing.
together. So,
There was a sweater that I did for my daughter that I crocheted I knit half of it blue and then the top half was white.
oh,
And I used a hand spun wool yarn for it. And then I got some little beads, sparkly beads at Michael's, like a big thing of them for a couple bucks. And I put them all over the place in the white area. And then I crocheted just kind of freehand,
mhm.
crocheted a snowman
Aw.
and a little hat. And then I braided a bunch of different colors um, for a scarf for the snowman. And then I made little hands for him. And so it looks like it's snowing. And so when she wears it and the beads kind of sparkle, it looks like, and I kind of cooked that up in my own, I don't know, I just kind of thought it would be cute. I don't know. And I did that one. I followed a pattern for the sweater foundation, but I did the snowman and everything else kind of my own accord. And when it turned out, I don't know. And so it turned out so cute.
That sounds delightful. That might be something that other people might be interested in. You may have to put that to paper,
I
and
mean, I also thought of one that would be really pretty with like a dark green or some sort of maybe a really detailed color, and then crocheting a tree and then doing buttons all over the place for
hmm,
on the tree for the sweater. I mean, I don't know. It kind of comes in the middle of the night when I'm up nursing because I've got 3 babies, and I'm kind of just thinking about those things. I'll come up
yeah,
with different things and
I understand. I know it's hard sometimes when that starts in your head and you're like,
3 o'clock
no,
in the
2
morning.
a.m. No, I have to go to sleep now. Shut down,
But
brain.
you're cooking on an idea and you have to now go back to sleep.
Oh,
But
I've worked out design ideas or design stumpers in my sleep. Just
yeah,
I'll dream about
doing
it.
on
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
I'll dream about it until it's resolved, and then I'll remember in the morning. I know how to fix this problem, and
Yeah.
I just thank the
You're
Lord
just
for that.
yeah. I mean, I I don't know. My son wanted to make rainbow mittens, and I didn't know how I was going to do that. And so him and I went to the yarn store together, and he picked out the colors he wanted, and
Oh,
then we kind of put it together. You know, Whenever I work on a project where my kids participate, I think that those are the more special ones
oh, that was,
because they are more involved. And my son is starting to crochet with me now, and so
and he is set the one who's 7.
he's 7, yeah.
Yeah.
And when he puts some stitches into the project, and then they're watching me, and I'm down to the last sleeve, and they're dancing around. Mom's almost done with my sweater, and then when it's done, and they wear it, 24/7 for a month, and they show everyone. They're telling everyone, my mom made this for me. You
Aw.
know, it's like I don't know. It's kind of special, you know.
I think it's great that you included them in picking out the colors because that
Yeah.
gives them some ownership
Yeah.
in the process. Well, let me ask you another question. Um, where would you like to take your small business? I mean, where would you? I mean, do you have like a vision you can share with us?
Um, I'd like to grow to a point where um I'd like to be to a point where all the designs are something that I've cooked up. I think that that would be pretty special. Um, I don't know though. No, I think that my main goal is just to share the craft. It's such an old craft,
Yeah.
and there's a really big generation gap between who does it now and
Mm-hmm.
well, sorry, who used to do, like, it used to be something that was everyone did. You could find a skein of yarn at the drugstore, you
Yeah.
know, and there's a big gap now, I feel like. And so I'm trying to share it with people my age. I think that that's kind of my goal,
Isn't
is
that,
people,
isn't that interesting? Because when I was growing up, my best friend, well, her mother actually helped me to learn how to read. I mean, this woman is just a gift to me. Her daughter was amazing. And I've told other people before, my oldest daughter, Becky, is named in memory of my best friend, who passed away at a very early age, and I can't go there.
yeah,
um,
either.
but her older sister, her name was also Becky, and the three of us, we would always be going to her mom with crochet questions, and there
Yeah,
were other friends of ours, some who also crocheted. I mean, there wasn't this amazing stuff available, or at least if there was, we didn't run in those circles back then. But
yeah,
we could go to the local GC Murphy store, which was kind of like a dime store. You could buy everything there. It was not a Walmart or anything nearly that big, but
yeah,
they had a beautiful assortment of yarn
yeah,
and
yarns,
crochet kits. They had
yeah,
crocheted ripple kits and the granny square kits.
yeah,
They sold a lot of them, and
yeah.
yeah, so
I want I if I could teach, you know, I just want to try and encourage, so whatever I would find is people would see something that I had made, and then they would just shut it down. That's too hard. I can't do it. And they just put up this wall for themselves. I'm hoping to kind of,
yeah.
I don't know, break down that wall a little bit and just, I mean, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it,
and
you
that's
know.
and that's let me just clarify, that's exactly why I started my YouTube channel back
Yeah.
in
I was
2011.
gonna say you could probably relate
Yeah,
to that.
I had no goal for being as busy as I am now with it. I was just there for my two little leaflets that had some more intricate stitches, the Aran Afghans to Crochet and the Noggins and Next are both Leisure Arts publications. And it says, I just want to make sure that if someone is nice enough to buy this at the store, that they can look it up and say, oh, I wonder how to do this stitch. And so I didn't monetize any of my stuff for
Yeah.
probably 8 years. I mean, they were just there as a public service thing, but then someone asked me to just do a whole project. And of course, during those 8 years or so, I was still homeschooling my 5 kids. So I had a lot on my plate. But now, but once people approached me, this group, the Pip and Poppycock group, I think it was, and they asked about it. And by doing that, that's, was able to do a project from beginning to end. So if you ever watch the Aran Afghan ones and you wonder why these look so primitive, it was my first time ever doing such an enormous
Yeah.
project. So, but I've just enjoyed interacting with everybody so much. I just, we turned a corner at some point with YouTube, but I think everybody knows YouTube now, and I think that's why it's just great to work with you, just so that we can let people know this isn't as hard as you think it is. Is it going to be a
Yeah.
learning curve? Of course,
Of
but
course there is. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like this. It might be more like this.
Yeah.
It's not like going to the moon and back. It's, it's just a little bit challenging here and there, and we're
I
here
tell
to help you.
people, you can learn, if you can learn, I mean, you're an intelligent, you can do it. I mean, honestly, if you learn the single crochet, the half double crochet, and the double crochet, you can pretty much make almost anything.
And if you've got the skills, if
Then
you're
they'll build. Yeah,
right,
exactly. If you,
and
yeah, if you
if
get those 3 things, then you can
right,
then build on that, you know.
right, and a lot of people, I mean, if you've got the knowledge, and if you're like in my age group, okay, and you are watching this video, you had to learn a lot of computer skills just to go boop and get to the link or whatever. I mean, it is easier now, but this
Yeah.
is because we've done it a lot. You know, you're going to
Yeah.
have to. But so, I mean, if you've got the skills to, where's my, oh, my phone's over here. I had it on a
Oh,
stand
nice.
talking to my daughter today. So, I mean, if you've got the knowledge to know how to work one of these magic boxes that's in your back pocket, that was, you know, that learning curve was like that for our
Yeah.
generation. You
I
can
mean,
learn this.
I
It's
tell
easier.
people, you know, once it looks really scary, but then once you've done it 2,000 times, I mean, how many times have you made a double crochet, Bonnie? Like, be honest.
I no, I can't even count. I mean,
Exactly. If you've
it's in
done
the
it 2,000
billions,
times,
I'm
if you've done
sure.
anything
No,
2,000 times, it's no longer
yeah,
difficult and scary anymore. I mean, I remember when I was about 20, I worked at a hotel in Seattle, and there was a conference going on. And I think it was for teachers. And there was maybe, I don't know, 400 people. I don't know. And there was one woman sitting in the back, and she had her baby with her. Everyone else, you know, didn't, but she had her baby with her, and the baby was playing happily on a blanket while she was listening to the person talk, and she was knitting a sock. And I remember, um she was using double points, working in the round, just going round and round making a sock, and I would stand in the back and I would watch her knit. And I remember thinking to myself, and this was when I was 18 or 19 years old, like, I can't do that. That's too hard. There's no way I'm ever going to be able to do that. And I completely shut it down. I would crochet all the live long day, but knitting, no, no way. And then when I decided to learn how to knit, and then I, you know, started doing this and then that and then this, and then I got to the point where I needed to use double points to work in the round.
yeah.
I remember thinking, like, I can't do that. And then when I was shown how to do it by a lady, you know, she was just like, well, it's not that big a deal, just do it this. And I was just like, oh,
Yeah,
that's the thing though. It's like,
yeah,
people just, they see it, it looks hard, and then they just decide they can't do it. But
yeah. It's just like we used to tell my kids with working on projects for school. I know it's kind of a gross analogy, but we used to say, you know, how do you eat an elephant?
how do
And
you, you know, one bite at a time?
one bite at a time. And
I
it's
know.
like this hat that's been released as we speak. The sprig
Sprig
cloche.
clues. Yeah, the sprig
Clue?
clues.
I'm
Yeah,
saying it
clues.
wrong. Oh
Yeah.
well, I said it wrong in the video.
That's
But but
okay.
yeah, these people get fancy with their language, and whoop, there it goes. I'm left out. I'm still working on English, but but the thing is, you know, I looked at that at the chart for the little piece that goes across. I would show it to you, except that it's in the hands of the U.S. Post Service, and I hope they get it to you safely. Um, anyway, I looked at that and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. You know, there's a lot of symbols on here that I don't understand. So, you know, here I am going to YouTube, and you know, I just looked them up. And so all the 2.5 hours on that video is going step by step, teaching you how to read the chart, very similarly to the Tree of Life Afghan that somebody requested that I do. I did not write that one either, but you know, if you look at the whole thing, I mean, you can just pass out because it just looks horrible. But if you block everything out and just look at that one
Yeah,
little
just look
piece.
at one at a time. I
Yeah,
remember when I first was introduced to charts, and I remember thinking, like, holy crap, this is so much,
yeah,
you know. But it's true, you're looking at a lot of information. But if you just look at the first row, you know, block it out like you say,
yeah,
okay, well, there's only one thing there.
yeah. Knits and pearls.
And then,
Hey,
yeah,
I'm good.
knits and I got that.
Yeah,
Okay, no problem. And then you know,
yeah,
you just kind of go at it one at a time. I remember thinking, like, I can't ever do that. You know, you just kind of, but if you just start at the beginning, I don't know. I also, you know, really I don't like how crochet people that, they don't like crochet for whatever reason, but the main complaint that I've ever heard is that there's holes in between the stitches, it's too holy.
Mm.
So I tried to do designs or work, with things and show that crochet can look just as pretty as knit.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, this blanket that we did, people flip out that it's a crochet and not a knit, and then, I mean, but at the same time, people prefer crochet. I mean, a lot of people that I talk to, they prefer it because it doesn't cramp up their hands as much and all those different things. And so
And
I
ripping
think,
out, I know we complain about that, but ripping out is hard to do in any craft. But let me tell you, it's a lot easier with crochet because you've got one little loop that you've got to start off with again. I've had to rip out knitting stitches, and I mean,
yeah,
you want to see a grown woman cry. I mean, it's like, okay, there are 200 loops per round, and how many rounds do I need to rip out? And I need to make sure when I hook them back that they're all facing the right direction again. And
yeah,
it's just like, ah, you
yeah.
know,
My
I
husband asked me yesterday, he said, well, why don't we have any knit blankets kits? And I'm like, well, we do. I have the baby blanket, that's a knit. And then he says, well, why don't we have, because I'm talking about doing one for October with you.
yeah, we
And
can
he's
even
like,
talk
well, why are
about
you going to do another blanket? We've got, and I'm like, because they're awesome. And because, and he's like, well, why not a knit one? And I said, don't think I'll ever knit a blanket. Do
yeah.
you know what that would mean? Like, how long would that take? Maybe if it was squares, I might be more open to.
I don't know. Then you have to connect them all.
I
So
know.
I don't even like
The
doing
idea
that
of
with
knitting
crochet.
a blanket is like, that would take
Yeah,
the next decade. I don't know. People do it though, but
yeah. There's some people,
they're magical in my book.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's both crafts are wonderful. It's just
Yeah.
I think we tend to grow more comfortable with one over another.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean, it's such an old thing too. I mean, I loved it. I love it a lot because it's different all over the world. You can find different fiber. The fiber is drastically different in, you know, I don't know, Australia versus
yeah, yeah.
Peru versus, Iceland versus Ireland versus, I
Switzerland,
mean,
yeah.
and everyone's style of knitting or crocheting is different, which I absolutely love. And the history of the fibers, the history of garment making in general, I talk about on my website about that. If everyone made just one thing that they wore on their body, a sweater, a hat, whatever, then they would see what it would mean to make something for themselves and the pride that they would get from that. And that might shift, I actually kind of quote on my website that if everyone made something for themselves like that, it would just change everything, because this stuff mentality that people have now, I feel would be changed, because people, if they made it for themselves and they saw what that means to have something that they make, that they wear, the pride and the skill, the patience, the love, it's addictive. You just make another thing, and then they stop buying things and then they start making, and like, I think that kind of goes back to what I was saying before, would you rather buy and have 50 or 50 coats or sweaters, which I know people do. They've got, like, who needs 50 coats? But, you make your sweater,
Mm-hmm.
It might take you a while for sure. My first sweater took me like a year because I put it down for a long time, but I wear that with pride,
Yeah, that's
as
great.
my first sweater that I made for myself. So,
That's great.
I mean, so anyways,
Can you tell us some of the history behind the tulip blanket?
okay. So the Skagit Valley is a place where we grow tulips very well here. The only other place in the world that grows them so successfully is in the Netherlands. And they have a tulip festival, obviously, as well. But we put on one every year, and people come from all over the world to see them, just millions,
And
as far as the eye can see.
what time of the year is that usually then?
It normally opens and kind of hovers around Mother's Day.
Okay.
It depends on the weather. If it's heavily rained, then it might be a little bit farther into May, but it's normally early May that the tulips will open up. And before the tulips, they have quite a few fields that they do of daffodils. So that kind of starts the season. People come for the daffodils as well. Also, the snow geese are really famous for our area. Just they
Hmm.
flock to this area from Russia.
Oh,
um, they kind of migrate, and they will respite here, and they'll feast on the worms and out in the fields, and them flying about in their flocks. I mean, if I would encourage you to just to type in the snow geese of Skagit County, and the photos that you'll see are
okay.
just
Yeah, I'll have to put a
amazing.
picture in here for that.
Yeah. Anyways, that's kind of the area. And so every year since I was a small child, we've gone to the Tulip Festival. It's part of the family tradition that we have, along with Christmas and everything else like that. But
I may
this
have
year,
to
or
find that.
the pandemic caused us not to be able to go. And my kids were, it was like a big deal because the family gets together. It's kind of like a little bit of a family reunion, for lack of a better description.
Must have been 2 years, right?
Um, we
2020
went. Actually, yeah, maybe no, no, I think we went the one year.
last
Well,
year.
maybe not.
And it's
Maybe
just,
we didn't.
I know
Yeah,
it's easy
yeah.
to lose track of time in
I'm
this
sorry. The
time
whole year is gone. I
we're in.
honestly, I thought it was only once that we didn't get to go. But anyways, near the Tulip Festival, my mom's cousin has a house, and the whole family gathers for like a meal, and
Mhm.
it's kind of like a big family reunion every year for the Tulip Festival.
Sounds
And
cool.
it's absolutely a wonderful thing. And then when we didn't get to go, it was really hard for the kids.
Mhm.
They missed their grandparents, they missed their aunts, they missed all their people. Their kids are so into their people, and then when they're just ripped from them, it's just like, where are all my people?
Yeah,
So
yeah, that was our
I think
Christmas.
I think kids have been worsely affected of anyone. I mean, I don't know, you can't compare, but they really miss their people, during this time. And
Well,
the Tulip Festival was kind of a part of that. And so I was walking around the property, around the yard, and I was like, maybe I'll bring the tulips home a little bit, type of thing. And so I kind of started thinking up this blanket, and I drew it all out for you, which is I hope that you kept my drawing. It's such a funny, like, it's such a primitive little thing that I did, but drew it out for you. And if we could make the flowers pop and look more, lifelike. And I love what you said though about, competing with Mother Nature. It's really hard to,
oh,
compete.
yeah.
It's impossible really, but we can try. But, the colors, of course, like you say, were the hardest to pull together. But what I had imagined is nowhere where it turned out to be. I mean, the collaboration, and that's what I love about collaborations. Like,
Mm.
I come up with this idea, and then you are like, well, what about this, and then what about that, and then it's like, boom, it turns out to be this amazing project. I mean, I never would have thought about having the arrow stitch. I thought that was such a good choice in between the rows.
Good. I love that stitch
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, it looks so good there. And so
Well, that
you
yarn
took it
was
to a whole
just
nother level. Yeah,
begging, begging for more than just the little flower pop. It was like,
I know.
I
Well,
want
I mean,
it in other ways. So,
I
yeah.
know. I thought that the pop of color would make it, pop really nice, and just be really bold and, boom. But having that arrow stitch just took it to a whole nother
Mhm.
level.
That
And
yarn,
so
yeah, it was just very inspirational. Just looking at the yarn, I'm like,
I know.
oh, well, I've got to stop what I'm doing and do this because it's yelling at me, sitting there saying,
It's
"You want to
staring at
compete with
me.
me?"
The yarn is staring. Yeah, I think that I'm most proud of that project because I did that one from start to finish. Like, I started it out, with a drawing,
Mhm.
and then okay, I brought in a special crochet hook, you know, the indigo blue crochet
Yeah,
hook.
these look really
And then
cool.
I worked with the color coordination. That took me probably 3 months
Wow.
because the colors are so complicated.
Hmm.
And then hand dyeing that with Tammy. And then, you know, the sample and the video. And I
Yeah,
mean,
a lot of work. It's,
it
yeah,
just, yeah, from start to finish, it was probably a 6 month thing. Um, but I'm really proud of that one,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, well, that was fun. Well, but I wanted to ask you a question too, and just to let people know that if they order from you at LambShopKits, LambShopKits.com, that does the Bonnie Bay discount code work with any of the kits, or is it just the crochet kits, or how does that work?
I have it set up for working for anything.
For anything. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So if you want to order one of these kits from Emily, then you can get 10% off. All you got to do is put in Bonnie Bay, and that just lets her know that you heard about it from us, and she will be happy
Yeah.
to lower the price a little bit for you, which I think you'll enjoy. Um,
I mean, don't we all enjoy that? I will probably have
dangerous.
that
Yeah.
code indefinitely.
Okay.
And it's a really great way for me just to keep, you know, keep an eye on your and take care of your you know, your followers.
Yeah, got to be nice to
Um,
my Bonnie Bay Crochet followers because
yeah.
they're wonderful, wonderful people. And you know what I just want to say too, what I love about many of them, interacting with them on the Friday Fun Live. And if you've not ever seen that, join us. And we have a live chat that's going. I try to get to it, but the more that has grown, it's really harder to respond to everything. Although I do read as much as I possibly can. But what I love about your spirit, you know, talking about when she was first starting out, just giving people stuff because she is more concerned that they grow the craft, and a lot of the people in the chat are just, you know, very giving, kind people, thinking a lot of times more of others than of themselves, especially with making things for people. And so I just think it's, you know, it's just great, and I want to help out, um, kind of wherever, however we can. So
Another main reason why I wanted to do kits was because a friend of mine was in the NICU for 3 months.
yeah,
And I,
and say what that is for people
oh,
who don't speak acronyms.
the
Speak
neonatal intensive care unit.
as that's for infants, right?
She
Infants.
was pregnant with a preemie and they were trying to keep her pregnant for longer, is basically so
Yeah,
she wouldn't give birth too soon. So she was waiting, you know, waiting for, she ended up coming to term, which is, oh, well, she's still delivered a little early, but she got to a healthy week, which is really, really amazing that they were able to help her do that. I mean, they're amazing down there.
yeah, yeah. But
The Seattle,
I first spent the first week or so of her life in the you know, in the
yeah.
neonatal intensive
Yeah,
unit.
neonatal intensive
So
care. So she spent 3 months in there. She was a friend of mine, and I made a few things for her. But I remember her being very bored, you know. And I remember just, but I had a new baby myself, and so it really hurt my heart to not be able to go there and just be with her. And you know, she wanted to make a baby blanket for her new baby because she was a, you know, but she didn't know how. And I was just, so she would just, can you come? And but I couldn't. I had just a few day old baby myself. I couldn't travel to Seattle, and
yeah,
you know, that just wasn't something that I
come
could
on,
do.
Emily, can't you
I
just?
mean, come
I'm
on, get out
just
of bed.
kidding.
Like,
Can't you just put that baby in the stroller? And no, I'm just kidding.
I know it was
I
like,
know.
should I bring my infant to the? I
Yeah.
don't know.
While you're still
Um,
recovering yourself physically.
yeah,
Yes,
you know, I just
yeah.
gave birth. You know, you can't really just, and the idea of a 3 hour car ride or whatever, you know, that's not super appealing after you give birth and
With the baby crying. No,
the
no.
baby's freaking out, you know. But you know, that was one of my big things. I wish that I could have just sent her a kit to make, you know, to make. I remember thinking that, you know, and it wasn't long after that that I started putting kits together. And you know, one day when my kids aren't little anymore, you know, I might just bring a bunch of kits down there, and whomever's in there right now will get a kit if they want one. And,
Hmm.
you know, I don't know. But
Hmm.
anyways, that was another reason why I decided to do it, was just because of that. You know, I'll have to send her a note. Like, I was thinking about you today.
Yeah,
Her
tell me
daughter is,
about her.
yeah, yeah. Her
Yeah.
daughter is, she's 4 now. It's just,
Wow.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, thank you
Anyway,
so much for being with us. I mean, we could probably talk longer and longer, but you know, there's only so much time. But we'll have to do this again, and I look forward to. I'm seriously thinking I would like to look at what it would be like to go out to that festival. And if you, once they start to do the festival next year, and they have, if you have your
well, we went this
stand,
year.
I'm sorry.
We went this year.
Okay, you did.
Yeah.
Did
Yep.
you have a yarn stand?
No, they actually have, in the 3rd April of every year, they have the Mount Vernon Street Fair, and it's a part of the Tulip Festival.
So that
And they
was
do that every year.
okay. So did they have it this year?
Yeah. I
No.
tried to be like a vendor for that.
Yeah.
But they weren't having that this year. So hopefully
Okay.
next year.
Well,
That's every year
yeah.
they have that on the 3rd April. So if you know, it's a really fun thing. I would love to, if you came out and visited. And
I would love it if there are like crafters, you know, there. That would be really fun to team up, you know, with your booth and just, you know, because I've only been to the Midwest. I can probably count on my hand 2 times, maybe
you mean the
3 if you count.
Northwest?
I was in Portland once, Washington State another time. This was before I was pregnant with my first child. It's
Oh
been a
my
while.
gosh.
In the 90s, probably before you were born. And also yeah, Becky's gonna be 30 this year, so it's been a while. And then the other time was a trip to California, which is not, and I wasn't in the Northwest part of that. So yeah, I would love to come back out there at some point. So
I
maybe
mean,
we can do that.
it's really hard to describe. It's one of those things that, but when you're standing there and there are just a million tulips, or millions as far as the eye can see,
Hmm.
you just are in awe,
I
you
would love
know.
to see
I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, wouldn't that be fun though, um to have photos, you know, with our blanket.
Yeah, I mean, I just love flowers. I'm waiting until Memorial Day so that I can get my little impatiens, that little pop of color to put in front of the house and feed the deer once they discover them. But I haven't planted them for the last 2 years because I haven't been here to do it. So I'm hoping that they have forgotten and have gone on to better pastures, and I can sneak them in the front of the house without them noticing this year. We'll see. Yeah.
You know what they do for organic cotton, maybe this might help. What they do for organic cotton, instead of spraying it with pesticides like they do with regular cotton,
Hmm.
is they do something called a distractor crop. So right next door to the organic cotton, they put something that's more appealing to
Oh,
the bugs.
you
So
mean
maybe
I'm talking more for the deer.
deer.
The
Yeah,
deer.
that's what I mean.
I don't
It
know. I
puts
think these are
more,
belligerent deer. I don't think they understand how. I think they were
what's
just
more
like,
appealing. They
oh,
might just eat everything.
oh, they do. They eat the little budding plums off of our plum tree, and peaches off the peach tree. Anything they can reach, it's theirs. So, and we don't have dogs on our property, so you know there's no deterrent. They just come on in and make themselves at home. So, but anyway, well, I just wanted to thank you so much for being with us today. And we just look forward to more of your work in the
Thank
future.
you.
Yeah,
It's
great.
been a really fun time so far. I can't, you keep holding that skein up. I keep seeing it. That one,
This
that
one.
one's going to be good.
Yep, yep. All right.
Okay. Well, thank
Well,
you.
take
Have a
care.
good day. Bye-bye.
Don't.